Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel. April 26th, 2018.
Warning: The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, author of Liberalism is a Mental Disorder, Trump's War, and God, Faith, and Reason, Michael Savage.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the Savage States of America.
Good afternoon from the nation's capital. This is Michael Savage reporting live from Washington, D.C. As you well know, most of you are very much into the news business. You all saw the Drudge Report yesterday. If you didn't, shame on you. And I was surprised, truthfully, to see the reaction to the picture of myself in the Oval Office with President Trump, where he was accepting a copy of my book, Trump's War, which I had signed to him. It was very moving. I then visited, it wasn't a 2-minute visit. I'm going to tell you all about it today as much as I can and wish to tell you. It was 30 minutes with the president, not 3 seconds. It was not an in and out. I was then taken across the Oval Office to the offices of Vice President Pence, a wonderful man. Spent 30 minutes with him discussing everything from art to politics to God, faith, and reason. And believe it or not, I then met with the next Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. Wonderful man from a great district of California that is the most conservative district of California, which in the Bakersfield area. I'm on KERN down there, I believe. I was amazed to learn that more oil is produced in that district than I think any other district in the United States of America. But I'll tell you more about that as we get into this show. I'm not going to comment on the Cosby verdict. There's a no-win situation for me here. What should I say? Great? I know what really went on. Then I'm going to say horrible? And then have all the women of the world hate me for it? Anything involved with Gloria Allred is no good. That's all I can tell you. Even if he did what they said he did, a lawyer should not celebrate the destruction of a man. That's all I can say to you. She's not in it for justice, that lawyer. That is one of the worst people on the planet. One of the worst people God ever permitted to come out of a reptile. Don't worry, Jim. Jim was getting a little nervous there. But I want to ask you, ladies and gentlemen of the Savage Nation, what do you want to hear about regarding my visit with the President in the Oval Office? Or my visit with Vice President Pence? How do they differ? How are they the same? What did we talk about? I mean, I'll tell you as much as I can. And what about my visiting with incoming House Speaker, no doubt, Kevin McCarthy? Why would he have seen me? And what about my running into Senator Lindsey Graham? Oh, you didn't hear about that one, did you? You'll never believe that story, because I wouldn't believe it. In fact, what I'm about to tell you in this show about my meeting with Lindsey Graham is something that would belong in a book of fiction. But unfortunately for you, it's all true. And the truth comes with its own shield around it. That's a quote of mine that Vice President Pence really liked. He had said to me, Dr. Savage, he said, you're very brave to speak out the way you do all these years. I said, Vice President Pence, sometimes I wonder, but I often think that the truth comes with its own shield around it. The truth is its best defense. How can they hate you for telling the truth? Even your opposition knows you're telling the truth. They don't hate you for it. The only reason we ever hate the opposition is when we know they're lying. I'll give you an example. 2 days ago when I was on the radio, Pompeo was up for nomination, Secretary of State. We heard he was going to lose. The vermin in the media. That's vermin, by the way, is too good a word for them. Vermin is too high a word for them. Everything they could, they threw at Pompeo. No good this, no good that. The guy was a great American. I asked you on this show, call the show if you don't like Pompeo. Give me one reason. No one called. So now he's confirmed. There's not one word that he's confirmed. Instead, they destroyed a great man, Trump's doctor. They destroyed him with lies and videotape. Sex lies and videotape. That's what they specialize in. But, I was in the nation's capital with Congressman Culberson. I'm going to talk around things today. There's no subject order. We're going to do a potpourri. It was a quick visit. You can see a picture of me in my top hat and umbrella, with my umbrella pointing to the steps, marble steps, but you don't know what I'm pointing at. Well, I'm pointing at bloodstains in the marble on the marble steps, and Congressman Culberson, who's one of the funniest guys on earth, a great man from Texas, told me the story about the reporter versus the congressman, William Talby. A shootout on those steps in that Congress, and you'll never guess who died and who won. They pulled guns, and one of them died, and the blood is still on the steps. I said, are you joking? He said, no. I said, I got to take a picture of that one. And the umbrella's pointing right to the bloodstains. And he said, right up these steps, Michael, right up these steps. He says, when the British came to burn down the Capitol, he said, one of the Brits with a fire stick in his hand, a torch, rode up these steps we're walking on with a horse. I said, where? We were walking a horse? Well, yes. And they burned the Capitol to the ground. This place is so filled with history. It was amazing to be there and to eat lunch in the congressional dining room and meet so many amazing congressmen. As he introduced me, he said, this is Michael Savage. Oh, of course, one after the other. Congressman I wouldn't even know listen to this show said, we grew up listening to you. Our children listen to you. You've done so much for this country. I got to tell you, I'm a man who works alone most of the time. I have no idea what my influence might or might not be. I get, glimmers of this and that, but it's amazing to come to the power center of the world and get that kind of reinforcement. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm going to give you the phone number here, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282, and I'm going to ask you again, what would you like to hear about my visit with President Trump in the Oval Office, or my visit with Vice President Pence, and my visit with the incoming Speaker of the House, we hope, Kevin McCarthy? But let me begin at the beginning, which was not the beginning, that was just the beginning. The beginning is now coming. So before I was ushered into President Trump's office, I thought about what's the best way to say hello. I couldn't just walk up and say, hi, how you doing? What's happening, man? I didn't do any of that. Being somewhat theatrical and having the theatrical gene born into me, and knowing that the president himself loves theatrics and also loves entertainment and was in the entertainment business, I figured I'll do something unique for him. I mean, this guy has so much pressure on him, right? So, I know him from before, a couple of meetings here and there, Mar-a-Lago, and a dinner, of course, for a couple hours. But nothing like this. This is the place to be. This is it. You're walking into hallowed ground. So what would you do? Well, if you look at michaelsavage.com, you'll see sort of the outfit I wear. I have a black fedora. So I walk in, and the aide says, all right, Mr. Savage, come on in. I come in. There he is sitting at his desk. I look at the president, and I say to him, Mr. President, I understand that you only trust your money with a small man with a small cap on his head. And I touched my hat, and I said, would you trust your message with a small man with a large hat on his head? And I tilted it towards him, and I said, am I hired? And he said, you're hired. That's how we began the meeting. You can write it down because it's 100% truthful. Ask anyone who was there. I'm not making this up. He enjoyed it very much. As I say, little theatrics go a long way, but he also knows that I consider him to be a friend of mine, and I do want to run with his message because it's my message. And although you may think that this viciousness towards the president is something unique and new, you'd be mistaken. This has been going on since biblical times. I'm sure they conspired back in the age of Isaiah. I'm sure the prophets competed with each other for the attention of God and for audience. And I'm sure that there were scribes who put down one prophet and put up another prophet. And just human nature. It's just the way it is. People compete for dominance, and people compete for the top position. I've never seen anything like this Trump derangement syndrome in my lifetime. It's never been this sickening. But as I say, it's not without precedent. 1890, you had a reporter and a congressman shoot it out right on the steps inside Congress, and the blood is still on the steps to prove it, and I'll tell you more about that. But again, I don't want to get ahead of myself. What I want to do for you right now is, again, invite you to call. After all, it is a talk radio show, and all the congressmen said, Michael, keep up the good work. Another 25 years. You have made such a change in this country, and we need you now more than ever. I said, well, believe me, you need me now more than ever. And we got to appeal to the women and the millennials in particular on the issue of the environment and saving the elephants and the lions. Don't think I let up for 1 minute. You're not going to believe where this one goes. So I invite you again, what do you want to hear about regarding these visits? The phone number is 855-400-7282. You're listening to the Savage Nation. Now let's begin with a conversation I had over lunch in the congressional dining room. It's only a minute long, 53 seconds. Culberson's got a great Texas sense of humor. He's from the Houston area. Now listen to this one now. Go ahead. I'm speaking with Congressman John Culberson of Texas over lunch in the congressional dining room right now, and he just told me a cheerful story. I said, this is a very rough business you're in, isn't it? I said, you don't know who your friends are? And here's what the congressman has to say to the audience.
Politics is like a pack of wolves working a herd of caribou. You just got to recognize it, have a sense of humor about it, but don't trip, stumble, bleed, drag a leg. You're too young, you're too old, the wolves will just come right out of the trees and take you out. But America's worth it, and Texas is worth it.
Here's another good one from the esteemed congressman.
I've learned over the years it's better to be a B-2 over downtown Baghdad than a B-52 over Hanoi. Don't paint a big radar target on your back. You can get a lot done if you come in low and fast with no radar signature, and they don't know you're there till they hear the detonation. You can get a lot done, especially if you don't care who gets the credit.
This guy is the best. I mean, he is a historic congressman as far as I'm concerned, and he and I get along great. I love that story. I will not soon forget that politics is like a pack of wolves working a herd of caribou. You just got to recognize it, have a sense of humor about it, but don't trip, stumble, drag a leg, bleed, or the wolves will come out of the trees and take you out. But America's worth it. It's exactly what the radio business is. There is no brotherhood. Make no mistake about it. There are only those who do it honestly and those who invest in real estate with shell companies. This is the Savage Nation. Be here or be nowhere.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com.
Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel.
Hey, it is Michael Savage live from the nation's capital. Maybe it's not a big deal to you, but you know what? It's a big deal to me. I'm an immigrant son, and maybe that's why it's a big deal to me. I know you're all jaded. Oh, big deal. Oh, big deal. Well, it is a big deal. Presenting the president, Trump's war in the White House is a big deal, especially since his campaign was based to a great extent upon the messaging in that book. And he's tried his best to get much of that done. And the vermin in the media trying to make it about him, not about the message, because they hate the message. Never forget what that's about. You think Pelosi wants borders? You think she wants language? You think she wants culture? No. But again, I don't want to get negative. I really want to stay on the positive. I haven't yet gotten to my meeting with Senator Lindsey Graham, the chance meeting, which was unbelievable. First of all, he's a senator, obviously, and I'm in the, where was this? This was at the, where did I run into him? Okay, it was at the Macron luncheon the day before. It's the same day, I don't remember, it's a blur, the 24th, that day. It was at the luncheon for President Macron, but the cocktail party before the lunch ran for an hour. It was jammed with diplomats and this and that. So I'm standing there talking to different people. A congressman came up from North Carolina, one of the nicest people on earth, and he and his wife and myself and my wife talked for a while about many things. Well, out of nowhere comes this guy, affable man. I never, in person, doesn't look like, and he says, "This is Senator Graham. Do you know Michael Savage Talk Show?" So he shook my hand. We looked at each other. Now, we're antagonists. I've called him every name under the sun. I've called him Pinko Lindsay. I've called him Pinko Graham. I've called him warmonger, right? Here's this guy smiling, and I'm being affable. I mean, I'm a human being. But here's the thing. Well, let me tell you what happened. So we start talking. All of a sudden, we find out we have something in common within a millisecond. We both want to save the elephants. We both want to stop the importation of the ivory. He is so passionate about this issue. And he invited me to go to Africa with him and Bono on a congressional delegation, a congressional plane. on this issue and the environment. And he's so into this. And there are many others in Congress who were into this. And now we're talking. We got along great because we both want to do what we can for the environment and for the animals. So about 10 minutes into chatting and having a drink, he says, you know, Michael, he said, you know, before I met you, I thought you were effing crazy. I said, well, Senator, let me tell you something. I know you're effing crazy because of your policies, but I still like you. Well, he laughed. This is the thing about him. The guy's a great guy. People who are big cannot really be insulted. It's the small people who get insulted very easily, I'll tell you that. These guys have a skill. It's like a duck on water. You know, you insult them, it rolls right off them. You got to have a very thick skin to be in politics. And he must have a real thick skin. So anyway, we would talk, 10, 12 minutes about the animals, and we're going to work together, and this is great. And he said, how did you get the religion on this? I said, how? This is the most important thing in the world. I said, these creatures depend upon us. Do we want to be the last generation on Earth to see them annihilated by the vermin who are killing them off so the Chinese can buy ivory? No. So we go on. And as I say, he wants me to come to Africa with him and Bono and a lot of other celebrities. I don't know if I will go. I don't like traveling to begin with, and I don't think I'm going to go. But the point is, we left friends, and he took out his iPhone. You have a card? No, I said, I don't have a card. I'm a talk show host. You have a card, sir? No, don't carry him. Don't have him. So we're both older guys. No, this is very funny. I said, why don't you put your iPhone number in my iPhone? He said, I don't know how to do that. I said, well, I grew up on a Royal Portable. I don't really know how to do it either. So next to us is a big Secret Service guy, younger guy. I said, sir, do you know how to put someone's phone number? I know it's nothing for an 8-year-old into another iPhone. Yes. He says, or you go to contacts, blah, blah, blah. So Senator Graham gave me his cell phone number. He said, now you call me anytime you want on this issue. We'll talk. So as he's leaving, I said, how come we got along so great? How is this even possible? He turns to me and he says, because I grew up in a pool room that my parents owned, above which was a liquor store which they owned. So I looked at him and I said, no wonder you can talk to anyone on the planet. And then as he left, I looked at him and I said, Senator Graham, let's shoot pool fast, Eddie. He got a kick out of that one. But it just shows you something, is that meeting people in person is the key to diplomacy and ending enmity. So many of us are prejudiced towards our opponents because we don't know what they are. There's no humanity. We do it. I do it. The other guys do it. We vilify each other. But, meeting someone in person and looking in their eyes is the best way to get to peace, not war. And it tells me a lesson about diplomacy and how important it is to stop war and start peace.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282.
Only the echoes of my mind.
Welcome back to the Savage Nation. Every time I hear this song, I'm reminded of Dustin Hoffman as Ratso Rizzo dying in the back of that bus to the Promised Land. Sweating and he dies, remember? That's what I thought of when I was invited to Africa on a congressional plane with Senator Lindsey Graham. I somehow envisioned myself dying in the back of that plane from 12 or 14 hours with him and Bono. I think Dianne Feinstein's going to be on that one. Nancy Pelosi. I'm sorry. I'd rather see the movie. And I didn't get into any of the details of the meeting, which I'm going to do at the top of the next hour. I want to take some callers. The phone number is 855-400-7282. There's so many great callers with interesting questions about what happened. Let's begin well, I don't know. Keith on KSFO. Let's hear what you got to say. Keith, what's on your mind?
Hi, Dr. Savage. Good to talk to you, long-time listener, first-time caller. I'm just curious, based on your earlier comments this afternoon, what did you find was either the most surprising or disappointing comment that President Trump made to you during your meetings?
None. Oh, the most surprising, I can give you the answer quickly. And I was saving it for hour number 2 because it's a true story that no one will believe is true. Okay. Let me see the notes here. I'm going to read this to you because I want to get it right. Somewhere about 10 to 12 minutes into the meeting, there was a device on his desk with a red button. The red button started to flash. In the middle of talking about this and that, the president reaches for the button and pressed it. I thought it was a nuclear launch. I said, Mr. President, did you just launch a nuclear weapon? President Trump laughed and he said, yeah, I just launched an atomic bomb. He said, no, I'm ordering a Diet Coke. I died laughing. I thought he wanted us out of there. I thought that the button was something that they put in to get visitors out. When they wanted to go, it rings red to tell the aides to come in and take the people out. He said, no, it was not that. It was to order a diet soda from his valet. I swear to you. I mean, just picture being there in the Oval Office. I mean, everything is majestic, no matter who's in that desk, right? This is a place like no other. It is the mountains. So you're sitting and talking to the most powerful man on earth, and there's a device on the desk, and a button starts to flash red, and he presses it. Wouldn't you think that a city was just smoke somewhere? No, it was to order a Diet Coke. It's a true story. What can I tell you? Look, if you're disappointed I'm not talking about the Cosby thing, you can listen to any moron in radio right now, because it's the dumbest topic on the earth. What is there to say about the Cosby verdict? Sure, if I wanted to fill up airspace and talk to airheads, do you think that was a fair verdict, an unfair verdict? I'd do that for 2 hours. You know what? I'd retire rather than do that. I'll leave that to those who can't do anything else. I'm going to go back to this, though, and take your calls at 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. What do you want to hear about my visit with the President, the Vice President, and incoming Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy? Let's take the next caller on WDRC. Oh, that's the Houston affiliate. Alicia, welcome to the program on line 8.
Michael, I want to hear about the important thing about the trip. I want to hear about the food.
About the food. I was almost going to do a little segment on all the meals. I will tell you, I had the best meal of the entire trip this morning when I finally left the expensive hotel I was in, walked around the corner, and had an egg sandwich on the sidewalk. I finally could relax. But now let's get back to what you really want to know. Now, which event do you want to know about? Food where?
The dinner. The fanciest stuff you ate.
Well, first of all, it was the French luncheon. I didn't get to the dinner. I was invited to the luncheon with some other amazing people who were there who I can't mention. I actually did not eat the lunch because I had to meet the president. They ran an hour late, and the lunch came out, and it was basically just fish, It was great. It looked nice. I took one bite and had to run. I had to get over to the White House, to be honest with you. But the best meal I had officially was in the congressional dining room with Congressman Culberson. Not only because it was exciting to be around all the congressmen eating lunch, and he said this dining room has been here since, he said 1820 or something like that. I couldn't believe it. Congress has eaten in this room since 1820. You're sitting in history there. It's a real deal. So what did I eat there? We have a menu. I said, Congressman, do I see a buffet along the wall? He said, yes. I said, can I do the buffet? I don't want to order anything and wait for it. He said, well, sure, Michael, let's go have the buffet. I said, I like buffets because then I can eat as much as I want, as fast as I want, without asking anyone. I got to tell you, the food was great. They had eggplant Napoleon, which I like. They had, since we're in Washington, D.C., they had chitlins. You know what that is? Collard greens and chitlins, you know what they are? Are you there?
I am. I don't know what that is. What is it?
Well, it's pretty darn good. Look up collard greens and look up, it's real Southern food. They had all sorts of great stuff down there, and I had, a little steak, a little this. But it was fun eating in there, watching the congressmen work each other and do their deals. It was not just the food, it's who you're with and what you're talking about. Don't you think that's as much a part of the food as anything else? As an Italian woman once said to me when I first moved to California so many years ago, and we went to her lovely home in Monterey, and she cooked a huge amount of pasta for about 10 people. We all came together looking over the bay. Lovely woman, she's since deceased. And she said, a human being needs to fill their soul as well as their body. He said, the pasta's ready, but the conversation has filled our soul. And that's what I'm talking about. We got to fill our soul in order for the food to taste good, right?
That's beautiful.
Thank you for that call. I can't say anymore. I mean, I've had some very good meals along the way. One disaster in an Italian restaurant, of course, almost a real argument with the owner, and I left. But it's me in a new restaurant. It's a good thing I left because I don't think I would have survived if I had stayed in there. Well, he lost 3 meals. It would have cost, he lost a couple $100 there. It's his loss, not mine. Well, I never go to this place. I'm not telling you the name. 855-407-282. Let's go to New York City, WABC. Judy, line 6. What's on your mind, Judy?
Hi, Michael. Thank you for taking my call. I just want to tell you something. When you were discussing to us, the audience, how you spoke to Lindsey Graham back and forth, and then you realized diplomacy means that you really have to meet up with people, and it becomes a whole different issue. And that's how you could really create so many wonderful things, peaceful things through diplomacy. So I just want to say that I agree with you, and I really think that there's nothing like the human touch, Michael. There just isn't.
Judy, that's the whole point. If Lindsey Graham and I, who are opponents on virtually every issue except the one that we found in common, saving the elephants, not importing ivory tusks, saving the lions, and we have commonality. And I said, Senator Graham, remember, politics does make strange bedfellows. Indeed, many years ago I worked with Charles Schumer to stop the Dubai ports deal. He said, I remember that, Michael, I do. I said, well, then you and I have to get together on this because we are a very strong force. And if I name the other people who came over, you're not going to believe the power of these people and what committees they run. And we're going to do something about this. Because I said, Senator Graham, if we can save one herd, it's as though we saved the entire species. They're depending upon us. But I think your point is a little different, which is about speaking to people who you think you don't like. Isn't that what you're saying?
Yes, absolutely. But more importantly, you learn to respect one another. You learn to tolerate. You learn to understand each other, explain to each other that you can't do through texting. You can't do.
But here's the problem with this. This sounds good and it's true if you're dealing with a decent person. But there are people on the earth who you cannot speak with. There are people on this planet who would kill all of us. There are people on this planet who hate our religion, they hate our democracy, they hate our way of life, they hate the freedom of women. You cannot talk to those people. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? They have been at war with people around the world for 1,000 years, and unfortunately, too many of their fellow travelers have gotten into this country because of open borders. No, you can't open your doors to everyone because you'll wind up being devoured by them. But by and large, I still think diplomacy is the greatest thing to start with. But as President Trump said today, I believe, that in the past Iran threatened us. They're not threatening us right now. He said, we'll threaten them. And I thank you for the call. We need a tough man to run this country, and he's the man for the job. He's a godsend. He came along right at the right time. I was watching a show on PBS the other night in the hotel room late at night when I came back. And the show was about warfare through the ages. Whether it was the Aztecs versus the Mayans or anywhere else on Earth. Go back through any historical period. And the show said that every time there's always been a nation or a state that had a lust for power and a desire to conquer and the technology to back it, that conquered a neighboring state, overran and conquered a neighboring state, and as a result advanced the civilization in that area. I could not believe what I was listening to. And the narrator was saying, I don't know who wrote the script, that in every time there are people we need. In other words, in this country, we need someone right now who has a lust for power and the ability to carry it out. In other words, for this country to survive. That's just what we need after 8 years of a president called Obama who had a lust for personal power and a lust to destroy the power of this nation. I think he had a lust for power for other nations. That was the unfortunate truth. But you won't hear about that from Wolf Blitzer, will you? They'll never give you the lowdown on what that man was actually about and what he was doing. You talk about treason and a traitor. So we're making up for lost time. So Trump rebuilds the military, which we need. We need a dominant military to survive in this world. Yes, and to make sure we're dominant in this world. And to export our technology and our culture to the world. Or we'll be overrun. Now, having said that, don't assume I'm saying that all immigrants are bad. I didn't say that at all. I'm an immigrant son. I'll give you another story in a minute or less. I'm in a cab going somewhere. I think I was going to the Capitol Hill yesterday for the lunch. So it was a Somali driver, an older gentleman, and within the 10-minute ride we got to talk a little bit. I didn't know where he was from or whatever. I think he said Somalia, this and that. We're coming near the Capitol. He looks up at the Capitol building as he got near there. He said, "Sir, that is a beautiful, beautiful building. That is the most beautiful sight on earth. That is such a beautiful building." I said, well, I'm an immigrant son. I know what you mean. He said, "It's a hope for all of the world." I said, well, where are you from? And within 3 minutes, he told me, he's from Somalia. He has 4 children. So I was afraid to say, well, now they're going to have to work hard. He said, "Oh, sir, my first one went to Johns Hopkins. She's a very famous doctor. My second one went to Harvard Law School. He's going to be a famous lawyer." And he went down the list of all of his 4 children. This is a humble cab driver from Somalia. I said, "Sir, you are the astronaut of your family like my grandfather was. You should be very proud of yourself." He said, "Sir, I am, and thanks for saying that." On that note, I shall say this is a great nation, the greatest nation on earth, a nation of immigrants, good immigrants, legal immigrants. That's the lifeblood of the nation. but we don't need the world's leeches, do we? Because we cannot afford them. Do you understand that? Do you finally get it? That the lifeboat is full, and if you take them all on, we will all go down with the ship? Back in a minute on the Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com.
Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel.
Welcome back to the Savage Nation, reporting live from Washington, D.C. You know, I turned the TV on during the break. You know why the brains of the nation are gone? Because you're watching the Cosby thing on TV. What can you learn from it? What can your soul get from that? You're sitting here like a moron. Cosby this, Cosby that. The whole country on sex and scandals. Why? Because the idiots who run the media understand how to jerk your chain and keep you down. To mix your brain up like a mix mash. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm here for one reason. I have a purpose. This is a purpose-driven radio show. It's been that way for many years. And I'm going to tell you about presenting Trump's war to the president and what it was like, and meeting the vice president, what it was like, and what it was like to be in that office, and meeting Congressman McCarthy. I will tell you all of that. Now let's take some callers on all of these subjects. Line 8, Mike on WABC. Question or comment?
Dr. Savage, mazel tov to you. This country, without you, the most powerful man wouldn't be there today. You are an asset to our nation. Thank you. You made it.
All right, but what's the question? I'm not a kind of guy who likes compliments, not because it's like, what's the point? We all get it. You're a great American. Meanwhile, you're running a real estate scam on the side. You're a great American. Let me have another guy on. Aren't you a great American? Hi, you're a great American. I'm a great American. Real estate scam. Front companies buying properties from poor people. Okay, so I'm not a great American. I'm a talk show. What's on your mind?
I just wanted to ask, does anyone, I'm certain we made the right decision, Doc, as far as taking those labs out, but are we really sure, you have inside information, are we really sure that Assad was behind that, or were the...
I don't want to answer the question. How's that? Thanks for the call. What do I know? I said no when they asked me, but no one asked me. I didn't clap when Macron said destroying the chemical weapons of a tyrant. I didn't applaud during the lunch. What do you know? Just jump up like a moron and scream, there's no proof? No, I didn't jump up like a moron and say there's no proof. Okay, anyone got real questions here? Your thoughts, this and that. Okay, one more on this before we go on to the real McCoy here. I haven't given you any of the real details yet. I will suggest you go to michaelsavage.com for some of the great pictures. I have a whole panel now of a thing called Savage DC Scenes. I took one this morning of a statue with a Civil War cannon and a statue of Jackson, a great statue. I couldn't wait for the idiots to come and say, tear the statue down, because he burped sometime in 1814. After being a great president, he burped somewhere in the vicinity of a woman, and therefore he should be removed, the statue, from these nobodies on earth. What a country we're living in. All right. Yeah, ABC. Liz, line 4, what's on your mind, Liz?
Savage, how are you, sir? Again, I was wondering if you were able to speak to the president about the elephants and/or saving the Endangered Species Act, which is obviously so important to myself and to you, sir.
Have you just tuned in? Because I said I spoke about this issue with Senator Graham. Did you hear that?
I heard that part, yes, sir, about the elephants and...
All right, so you want to know if I brought it up with President Trump, right?
Yes, sir, because he's the man that's attached.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. And I think I can safely say to you, without divulging any confidentialities, that he said, what do you mean, we're still bringing them in? He said, I said, who? He said right then and there in the Oval Office, he said, who would want to bring that in? What do we need ivory tusks from anyone for? That's crazy. That should have been stopped a long time ago. See, he's under the impression that he overrode the people who tricked them. He doesn't know that they tricked him and went behind his back and is still bringing in on a case-by-case basis. You understand what I'm saying? You got to understand that administration is not one man, and he's being undermined by some, and I can name who I think it is. But I'm not going to do that yet because it's not politically advisable for me to point out that person. The time will come because there's going to be an entire assemblage of senators and congressmen and people wanting that person to be exposed for what they are. This is one of the biggest issues for women and millennials, the environment and animals. Make no mistake about it.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel.
Me, a cat, moving in with a new human. It took a little getting used to. She has these weird games she likes to play, like this giant feather. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. It's almost like she thinks I enjoy it. But seeing how much fun she gets out of it, well, I guess it makes it all worth it. Humans.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
So, I'm a dog, and I'm kind of new to this family, but I've noticed a trend. My humans do this thing where they go around and get all my toys and hide them in this basket. But it's always the same basket, and it's always the same place. And then they act so surprised when I find them. But I'm like, hello? That's where you put it last time. Humans are the worst at hide and go seek.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.